Today we're visiting the inspiring beekeeper Christoph Franck, and we're sitting in his beautiful garden to talk about a new global trend, urban beekeeping. Join us. This is the Evolution Show. Welcome to the Evolution Show. I'm your host Johan Landgren. The Evolution Show is all about connecting the dots to see the bigger picture and address some of the biggest challenges and opportunities of our time. We focus on smart energy solutions, electric transports, artificial intelligence, AI, climate, and of course, inspiration for sustainable living. And today we continue on the beekeeping theme. In the first part, we were visiting Christoph Franck to talk about beekeeping and how you can work with bees. In the second part, we were visiting Christoph's honey shop to talk about honeycomb and all the things you can make from the bees. And today, we're back in his garden to talk about another hot topic, urban beekeeping. And thanks for having us, Christoph.
You're welcome.
We're back in your garden again.
Yes.
Yes, and we're going to talk about a quite strong trend in the beekeeping world. You don't have to sit in a garden or work in a garden like you. You can actually have bees in the cities, in the big cities. So let's talk a little bit about urban beekeeping.
Yes.
More and more cities like Stockholm or New York City or even Berlin, they have beekeepers that are keeping bees, for example, on rooftops.
Yes.
So maybe we should start to elaborate a little bit. What's the difference between urban beekeeping and, let's say, traditional beekeeping in like countryside or in a garden?
There's a lot of people who are interested in beekeeping nowadays. A lot of people who like to help to get a better environment, a better future for all the planet. And therefore, a lot of people who live in cities try to find a way to help, and they checked that beekeeping is also possible in towns. There's one big thing you have to check first in before you begin to keep bees in cities. You have, of course, to have some plants. You have to have some flowers around you. Otherwise, it will not work. There are areas in the world where they are keeping bees where there is not any plant, but they have to feed the bees all the time, and this is not a kind of beekeeping I would like to have. But in the big major cities, even in smaller towns, they are beginning to have beehives on balconies, on rooftops, where it's possible for the bees to collect some nectar from the plants. And there's no reason why it should not be so. Just check that you have as much flowers and green in your city as they need.
One would think that in a densely populated area like a big city like New York, that where do they find food? I mean, nectar and pollen and so on. But as I understood it, there are quite many places where it's untouched gardens, and they don't use any chemicals and so on. So there are actually quite a lot of food, and it's not like a very like polluted area, or it doesn't have to be, and it's an area where there are a great mix of flowers sometimes.
Yes, there are some skyscrapers there where they have a lot of farming, and I don't know if the right word is urban farming, but those who have such farmings, they can take the easy step to beekeeping also, because they would need bees to pollinate their fruits and the greens. So this is not a big thing if you have the possibilities for the bees to fetch some nectar from the plants.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as for beekeeping all over the world. You have to know what you're doing, because this can cause some minor problems if you don't know what you do. What would you say to your neighbors if you have a swarm going to their balcony?
Yeah.
From your hive? So you have to know so much about beekeeping to avoid a swarm,
Yeah.
or to catch it.
Yeah. And there could be some, you told me before this that there can be some unintended consequences by having too many beginners that are unaware how to treat the bees and so on, or they don't know anything. So you told me about something in Berlin about the swarm.
Yes,
you can tell us a
not
bit.
just one. They now employ some persons in Berlin who just catch all the swarms. The year 2019 was a swarm year in Middle Europe, and a lot of swarms in Berlin causes a lot of traffic stops. For example, there were some cars, also the people said attacked by bees, not knowing that the bees are just swarming and are trying to find a place where they can have the new hive. So there are really concerned people about how can we do that people don't have bee swarms in the big cities. It's not a very funny view to see a bee swarm on a car,
No.
and then you have a lot of small flecks after them. After
Many people, they are afraid of bees, and if
Yes.
they see bees, for example, on a parking lot, a big swarm coming, what should they do, and how should they think about this in a city, for example?
just stay calm. If you don't want to meet the bees, you don't have to. Just take a few steps and you're outside their area. If a swarm is gathering, so they are holding with the round the queen, and they are not interested in attacking people.
No.
But just don't try to tramp on the bees. It doesn't help anyone.
No.
And as I mentioned, there are people in every town who can handle bee swarms, and just wait for them. Call the police and they will help you.
Yeah, and a beekeeper will come to the rescue.
To take care of,
yeah,
of
and
the
they
bee.
will. It's a treasure to come actually to, if you can fetch the swarm for a beekeeper. I mean, not only is it free, but most of the time the swarms are very productive as well. So when you put them into your hive, your box, they will produce a lot of honeycomb and start to gather, to forage honey.
Yes.
So it can be a good thing as well to get them.
Every beekeeper tries to catch his swarms because it's economical advantage to have them back.
Yeah.
In a beehive. But to come back to the trend, I understand that a lot of people just are thinking that it's cool to have a beehive, and this is not enough. If you begin to keep bees, you're very fast learning that there is so much more about the bees than just the cool thing, and most people would like to know that their bees are having a good time, that they have all the things they need. So just check that you have the conditions for this.
Yeah.
Before you begin.
Yeah.
And there's always the possibility to start at the outskirts in the cities. There are always gardeners who are very pleased to let you place a beehive on their ground, always.
Yeah, and on that note, another strong trend when it comes to urban beekeeping is a lot of companies, restaurants and big companies, they want to improve their image, their green image, and market themselves as environmentally aware. So they can pay a lot of money. Even I've been approached once by a guy who asked me, can you help me with have a couple of bees and I'll pay you so and so much, quite a lot of money, just to have them, to tell his friends and you know. But in terms of companies, there are companies in Stockholm that have them on the rooftops, and they have a couple of beekeepers, and they pay them a lot of money. There are even beekeepers, I know in Stockholm and also in other cities, that basically they can earn an annual income sometimes.
Yes.
From just going from one company, one roof to another, having a couple of bees for a restaurant, for example, a couple of hives, taking care of them, and the company can perhaps use the honey if it's a restaurant for the servings, or just to say that, yeah, we have bees, we think about the environment. It's become a really strong thing as well. What do you think about this?
The marketing is a very big thing when people are thinking more about environment, and they would like to, of course, they like to buy from a company who is aware about the environmental things and sell or give away honey from the town, which was produced on their ground, maybe. But it's a little bit strange if you think that companies, big companies, are using beehives to show the people that they are aware of environmental thoughts, but meanwhile pollute the earth.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing, and I thought also about to earn money by doing so, hiring some beekeepers who just drive around and take care of some beehives on the rooftops on firms or something like that, and the companies are paying a lot of money for their image. So this is a possibility to earn money even in towns. But you have to think about the bees.
Yeah, definitely. That's the most thing. But another part is you can also work with the bees going around at the edges or around the cities, or even in them, to work with pollination services. That's also something that's growing. It's related to the urban trend. I mean, if we talk about making business out of beekeeping.
That's right.
So that could be a good thing sometimes.
A lot of people have seen films like More Than Honey, and they are showing beekeepers who have bees around the almond plantations, and it's very hard for the bees to do the job, just to have one kind of fruit or flower for a long time. It's not so good for the beehive. But if you have a variety of fruits in the chain, it can work for the bees. But it's not so good to move the beehives every 3 weeks or something like that. But there are services who are needed, and maybe it's a possibility to survive for mankind if you have those beekeepers who just driving around and pollinate all the fruits.
Yeah, it's interesting, this strong trend. There are many trends within the beekeeping. Today we're addressing the urban beekeeping trend, but related to that, you can see it in other ways as well. My friend, the cameraman and colleague here for the Evolution Show, he told me that quite recently there is an update coming for this very popular computer game, Minecraft. And in Minecraft, in the upcoming update, they will actually include beekeeping as part of the game. But there was also this, which also shows kind of how fast the trend grows, but also sometimes losing the connection to reality. So
Yes.
parts of it in the descriptions of the game, it's really real. They describe beekeeping as it is. Other parts, like we talked about swarms today, so coming back to swarms, they mentioned that the swarms could attack you and so on. But just to be clear on that, bees do not attack unless provoked, and they do not attack in swarms. They can
No.
address quite many. They can attack many in very, very rare occasions, but not like 1,000 bees.
No. The bees we are keeping today, they are raised after their kind of kindness, you could say. They should not attack. And to see such a game is both good and not so good, because it leaves the wrong impression. Hives or colonies are not attacking in swarms. They are just have the one aim to get a new hive for the colony. But it is true, if you are attacking a hive, if you are try to take all the honey and destroy the hive, you can catch a lot of stings there, but it would never happen with common bees, common honeybees, not in the towns and not in the countryside.
No. So let's kind of wrap this up. If you want to start with beekeeping and you're in an urban environment, what should you think about? What's your advice for people if, let's say, you have a very close by neighbor, you maybe have a little bit of a garden, a little bit of green space to use. You know that in the area there are a lot of small flower kind of natural gardens, yes, things, balconies and so on. Do you have any general advice?
If you try to, and if you want to begin with beekeeping, the same advice. Anytime, read. Just check the facts, get some information, learn to know more about bees and beekeeping, and then you can do it in the town or at the countryside. This doesn't really matter, but you have to have the conditions for the beekeeping that will say 2 square meters, the possibility to start up into the air for the bees, and to find something, some flowers, or there you need to check all the area, how much gardens are there, and how much it's not so bad conditions in towns with a lot of small little gardens, because they used to have a lot of different flowers, so any time of the year the bees can find something. But the hobby gardeners often also use a lot of poisons in their small gardens, and this is not good for the bees, and this is not good for the honey. So check it out before you begin, or go a little outside of the town and try an area where they have the conditions to have a good life.
Yeah, I think this is really good advice. And again, I would like to thank you for sharing your thoughts and taking us to this very beautiful garden to learn more about bees. And I hope you got inspired as well. I learned a lot. There are so many things about beekeeping, but I think we touched a little bit on the urban beekeeping part today. And perhaps we even prevented a couple of swarms in the urban areas, who knows? In the next episode, we'll probably have a pioneer when it comes to electric planes. So we're leaving sort of the air, but looking up in the sky. We'll see. Hopefully he will join us in the next episode. Otherwise, it will be a surprise. We'll see. As always, we appreciate your feedback. Please give us your comments below for us to improve the show. If you want to see the videos as soon as they come out, consider subscribing. And I hope to see you next Thursday, on Thursday next week, for the next episode.